Welcome Coyote fans and good day Barra fans. We are in the run-up to first start. This is the July update. Welcome Coyote fans and good day Barra fans. This is my 2012 FG motor. I think it's a 2012. I gotta trace the numbers on this thing. But anyways. Where am I at with this thing? Looks messy. This is the wiring for the Barra. You have a very small number of wires thanks to Bill Hooten's work here. This is one of his looms. And the interesting thing to me from doing a Coyote swap to this is how similar these wiring situations are. One of these wires is for start and one of them is ignition. So when you turn the key, I think it's the yellow wire gets activated when you turn, turn the key, the yellow wire gets activated when you turn to start, the red wire does. This is a constant power wire, okay? So the PCM has a memory with this wire. You've got a reverse and a fuel wire, so one of these wires gets 12 volts when the car's in reverse, and one of them provides 12 volts for the car. When you first turn it on, it's activating the fuel relay. A couple of fan wires, and your Barra gets started. It's that straightforward. I have to do some inputs for these wires, and where I'll do that, I'll probably have an aftermarket connector set up that hooks up to this loom with some weather pack connectors, maybe 4 or 5 of them, 2 or 3 of them, I'm not sure. I'm going to be providing extra. I'm going to have a V6 temperature sender that hooks up. I believe they're both the extra senders are on the side of the block down in this area. They're kind of hidden. One of them is there. That's for temperature. I want to know what this thing is, whether or not it's hot or not. And there'll be 2 senders in that hole. One of them will be the stock V6 sender, and the other one will be an aftermarket autometer. And I'll have an aftermarket, and that's not autometer, temperature gauge. Similar kind of fashion. I've already got the sender. I'll have to pull that where I'm pointing down in there. It's hard for you to see probably, but I have to pull that sender that comes from the factory. It's a 6-pound switch that all Fords come with. When you get 6 pounds of pressure, your temperature gauge swings to a little over half so that you feel comfortable. I personally want to know the oil pressure, so I'll hook that up. Okay, so then finally, I've got my wiring coming together over here, although it looks like it's more coming apart. I've got this is the actual connector. I'll show you where it hooks up under the hood for the V6. As it came down the assembly line, this thing went in, and that was, to hook up your water temperature. Okay, I've got that sender. This is the oil pressure switch, so there's that. And then finally, the all-important crank sender wire, which the crank sensor itself, when I duplicate the crank sensor signal off of the Barra, it's 36 teeth minus 1, I'll get a tachometer signal. My speed going down the road is found on the transmission harness. That from the factory is this sensor. I have a different plug for it on the T56/TR6060. Whereas the other wire, it's got a reverse switch. That's what that looks like. I believe I have to change that over to a different style as well. If I remember right, this is just a closed switch situation, so when those 2 wires are connected together, the car thinks it's in reverse. And then, for whatever reason, Ford ran one of these vehicle output speed sensor wires off of the O2 sender. I'm going to guess that's a ground. I have no idea. Probably it's a ground. Okay, let's look at where those go. So I'm kind of thinking this through. I haven't done this yet, but my thoughts on this are as follows. Never mind my incredibly professional welding job I did in the corner of that shock tower there. Ah, I am not a welder. This screams it, okay? I'm reminded that every time that I look at it. But you know what? That's going to hold. Anyways, back to the actual real world and what we're talking about here. That O2 sender wire hooks into this connector. So there's probably, that orange wire is probably a ground for the O2 sensors. And this is our big main connector for the engine. And this is our transmission hookup, okay? And I'm thinking, since if you see every wire is populated there, most of these wires back at Grand Central Station have to be ignored because the transmission is only populating about half of these holes. So I've got a bunch of wires that run probably all the way through into the engine bay, into the cabin that I can probably use. But more importantly, I can actually just use this connector for all of the wiring that I care about on this one. And I could basically trim this back and make this our main connector, okay, for everything, Barra and transmission. And get rid of a lot of the bulk you see here. This has got to be tucked. Normally you zip tie the thing up underneath the fender well or whatever. You know, how about I make some sense of this situation while I'm here? Then I can just have one connector and not worry about this bulky mess. So a couple of things to keep in mind here. I don't ever expect this car to go back to being a normal V6. You know, otherwise I'd leave this thing intact. And when I did my Coyote swap, I was thinking someday I might put a 4.6 back in this and put the Coyote somewhere else, or who knows. Now I'm done doing that too. I kind of plan on driving the car for a while, so why am I bothering with, you know, a lot of this stuff? Trying to preserve the original wiring. Just get it to where I have wiring that works. And while we're on the subject, since there's so much extra wire running into the cabin that's not used, I know, like I said, some of these wires are simply not used. I can trace them inside the cabin and use them for things like aftermarket gauges, which, like I said, I'm going to have like 4 of them, so why not? So there's that. My Tilton Clutch is coming along. I'm going to get that installed, I hope, soon. And we are about to first start the engine after 2 years of basically prep. And I suppose there's probably a couple months break in there, maybe like 6 if you total them all up, but it's still quite an interesting ride so far. So I hope you're enjoying the ride. Please don't forget to subscribe, tell your friends. Thanks for tuning in.